It was one of those nights when Hollywood met the world of sports, the annual Champions for Charity event in Las Vegas. The red carpet shimmered, cameras flashed, and some of the biggest names in entertainment had gathered to raise funds for veterans. But no one got louder cheers that night than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He strutted into the arena, charisma overflowing, flashing that trademark eyebrow and grin. Every lens followed him as he cracked jokes with reporters. During a backstage interview, one journalist asked casually, "Rock, there's a rumor Chuck Norris might appear tonight. What do you think?" The Rock chuckled, rolled his shoulders, and said with a smirk, "Chuck Norris? He's just a movie cowboy, man. Not a real fighter like us." The crowd around him laughed. The Rock meant it as a joke, but his tone carried a hint of challenge. Within minutes, that quote was trending online. Movie cowboy began flooding Twitter. Some fans laughed along, but others weren't amused. After all, Chuck Norris wasn't just an actor. He was a real martial artist. A champion fighter long before the cameras ever found him. Meanwhile, miles away in his Texas ranch, Chuck Norris watched the clip. He didn't frown. He didn't react. He simply smiled, and that calm, quiet kind of smile that said, "Some lessons teach themselves." Later that evening, event organizers confirmed it. Chuck Norris had accepted the invitation to appear at the same charity event where The Rock would be performing a demo match. The announcement spread like wildfire. Inside the arena, The Rock laughed it off when fans asked if he'd apologize. "Come on, guys. It's all fun and games. The cowboy can come watch the show, front row." But little did he know, the cowboy wasn't coming to watch. He was coming to teach. What happened next made even The Rock question his own strength, and the world would never forget it. By the next morning, The Rock's comment was everywhere. Sports blogs, celebrity talk shows, and YouTube clips replayed his smirking line again and again, "Chuck Norris. He's just a movie cowboy, not a real fighter like us." It spread like wildfire. Memes popped up, hashtags trended, and fans flooded the internet with their reactions. Some laughed it off, saying The Rock was just being funny. But others weren't laughing at all. To millions, Chuck Norris wasn't a joke. He was a martial arts legend, a black belt in multiple disciplines, a real-life champion fighter before Hollywood ever made him a meme. To them, calling him just a movie cowboy was an insult, not just to Chuck, but to every fighter who'd earned respect through skill and discipline rather than spotlight and showmanship. Within hours, "Respect Chuck Norris" started trending. Old videos resurfaced. Grainy footage of Chuck in his younger days, lightning-fast kicks, flawless control, calm eyes that spoke louder than any words. Fans began tagging The Rock directly. "You might lift weights, but you can't lift history. Never underestimate the man who taught your heroes how to fight." The Rock, sitting in his Beverly Hills mansion, saw the storm brewing. He laughed at first. He even posted a cheeky tweet, "All love to the legend himself." But come on, guys, it was a joke. The people's champ fears no cowboy. That only made things worse. Talk shows picked it up. Sports anchors debated it. Some even asked, could The Rock really take Chuck Norris in a real fight? Comment sections filled up with heated arguments. "Chuck's a real fighter. He'd school The Rock in seconds. The Rock's younger, stronger, faster, and come on." By midweek, the charity event's management team saw an opportunity. They released a surprise update. "Chuck Norris will attend the Champions for Charity event to support our veterans and inspire the next generation." The internet exploded. Everyone knew this wasn't coincidence. People began speculating. Would the two meet face to face? Would The Rock apologize or double down? For the next few days, hype reached fever pitch. Every sports page, every YouTube commentator, every meme account, everyone had something to say about it. And then, the moment came. Event night. Las Vegas. The arena was packed. Thousands of fans filled the seats, holding up signs like Team Rock and Team Chuck. Celebrities filled the front rows. Reporters lined the walkways. The bright lights made everything shimmer. The Rock was the main attraction that night, set to do a friendly exhibition match with a professional wrestler for charity. Backstage, he was his usual confident self, cracking jokes, flexing for cameras, entertaining his crew. But when he passed a TV screen showing news coverage of the night, he caught something that made him pause. On live TV, the headline scrolled, "Breaking: Chuck Norris arrives at the arena." The Rock grinned, shaking his head. Oh, so the cowboy really showed up. But there was something in his laugh, a tiny flicker of unease. Meanwhile, across the hall, Chuck Norris entered quietly. No entourage, no bodyguards, no show, just him, wearing a simple black jacket, jeans, and that signature calm expression. The crowd erupted as cameras caught him walking toward the VIP seats. Even the announcer's voice trembled slightly with excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Chuck Norris! The crowd went wild. Flashbulbs popped. Phones lifted high. But Chuck simply raised a hand in greeting. Polite, modest, almost too calm for the chaos around him. Backstage, The Rock was still watching the screen. His trainer joked, "Looks like your movie cowboy made it to the saloon." The Rock chuckled and tightened his wrist tape. "Good," he said. "Maybe he'll learn what real fighting looks like." Moments later, he walked out to the ring, music blasting, crowd roaring. He was in his element again. Microphone in hand, sweat glistening under the lights, he looked unstoppable. He began addressing the audience with his trademark energy. Finally, "The Rock has come back to Las Vegas." The arena shook with cheers. Then he smirked and added, "And look who's here tonight. The man, the myth, the cowboy himself, Chuck Norris." The crowd roared again, some cheering, some booing, but all waiting for what might happen next. The camera zoomed in on Chuck, sitting calmly in his seat, hands folded, no reaction at all. The Rock pointed toward him with a grin. "I hope you brought your boots, cowboy. This ring's no movie set." Laughter filled the stadium, but Chuck just smiled. Slowly he stood up and the energy shifted. The cheers softened. The laughter quieted. There was something about the way he looked at The Rock. Steady, calm, fearless. Even The Rock's grin flickered for half a second. The crowd sensed it. Something was about to happen. Where are you watching this story from? Drop your country or city below. Let's see how far Team Rock and Team Chuck reach tonight. The Rock thought it was all for show. But when Chuck Norris stepped into that ring, everyone realized this wasn't going to be an act. The energy inside the Las Vegas arena was electric. Lights flashed across thousands of faces. Phones recorded every second, and the sound of the crowd pulsed like thunder. The Rock had just finished his entrance, the music fading as he stood tall in the center of the ring. His voice echoed through the microphone. "Now that everyone's here, including our favorite movie cowboy," he pointed to Chuck Norris, who was sitting in the front row, calm as ever. The crowd's cheers mixed with nervous laughter. Some fans shouted, "Team Rock," while others yelled, "Chuck! Chuck, Chuck!" Chuck didn't flinch. He didn't wave. He simply gave a small, respectful nod. "That's all." The Rock smirked and continued, "Don't worry, Chuck. This is a charity event. No stunt doubles needed tonight." The crowd burst into laughter. Cameras zoomed in on Chuck, waiting for a reaction. But the old legend just smiled. That quiet, unbothered kind of smile that says, "I've seen bigger storms than this." Then, out of nowhere, the event host grabbed a mic and said the words that froze the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat tonight for charity, a friendly demonstration match between The Rock and Mr. Chuck Norris." The crowd went insane. People jumped to their feet. Chants filled the air. "Chuck! Chuck, Chuck!" The Rock laughed, shaking his head. "Oh, come on. You guys want me to fight Santa Claus next?" But Chuck had already stood up. Calmly, silently, he began walking toward the ring. No bravado, no music, just the sound of his boots echoing across the floor. The cameras followed every step. The closer he got, the quieter the crowd became. Something about his calmness carried power. Even The Rock's confident grin began to fade just a little. Chuck climbed into the ring. The two legends stood face to face, youth and muscle versus experience and mastery. The Rock broke the silence first. "You sure you want to do this, old man?" Chuck looked him in the eye and replied softly, "I don't do this for ego, son. I do this for charity and for respect." The crowd exploded. The Rock raised his eyebrows, impressed but still playful. "All right then, cowboy. Let's give them a show." They circled each other. The referee, more a formality than a necessity, gave the signal to start. The Rock moved first. A playful shove to test the waters. Chuck barely moved. The Rock pushed again and harder this time. Chuck stepped back lightly, his stance perfect. His eyes never left The Rock's shoulders. He was reading him like a book. The Rock lunged, going for a light grab. Chuck sidestepped so smoothly that The Rock's own momentum carried him forward. In a flash, Chuck tapped his shoulder and said calmly, Balance first, power second. The crowd laughed and clapped. The Rock grinned, slightly embarrassed but still confident. He turned and tried a faster move. A light arm grab meant to show dominance. Chuck's hand moved in a blur. Twist, pivot, release. And suddenly the Rock was off balance again, stumbling back a few steps. The audience gasped. Even the announcers were stunned. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Norris just reversed the Rock's hold like it was nothing. The Rock froze for a second. He looked around, a mix of surprise and disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be his show. He stepped closer again, this time serious. The playful grin was gone. He locked eyes with Chuck and said quietly, "Okay, cowboy, let's see what you've really got." He moved in fast, controlled but powerful, and in an instant, Chuck shifted his weight, hooked the Rock's arm, and lightly but perfectly flipped him over his shoulder. It was smooth, effortless, and completely real. The Rock landed softly but wide-eyed. He looked up at Chuck, who stood still, not even out of breath. The crowd went silent, then erupted into cheers. Even the Rock couldn't help but laugh. He got up, shaking his head. "You're good, old man." "Real good," Chuck smiled. "Age teaches you things strength never can." The arena filled with applause. The energy had shifted. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a lesson. Still, the Rock wasn't ready to quit. He raised his hands, motioning to go again. Chuck nodded respectfully. They circled once more, teacher and student, legend and icon. Before moving in again, the Rock leaned close and said with a grin, "You know, this wasn't supposed to be real." Chuck replied, calm and certain, "Respect always is." The crowd erupted once again. Standing on their feet, the Rock smiled wide, clearly impressed now. He clapped his hands and raised Chuck's arm high, acknowledging him as the true legend of the night. The cameras flashed, the crowd chanted, and social media exploded in real time. For the first time that evening, the Rock's smile wasn't pride, it was genuine admiration. If you were Chuck Norris in this moment, would you accept the Rock's challenge or just walk away? Comment below, I want to know how you'd handle it. The Rock thought it was all in good fun, until Chuck taught him one final move that left the entire arena speechless. The crowd was roaring, the lights blazing, and both men, The Rock and Chuck Norris, stood face to face again in the center of the ring. Sweat glistened on The Rock's arms, but Chuck's calmness was almost unreal. He wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't flexing, he was just present, still, and centered. Like a man who'd lived his entire life waiting for this exact kind of moment. The Rock gave a confident grin, wiping sweat from his brow. "All right. Cowboy," he said, half smiling. "Round two?" Chuck simply nodded. "Always." The bell clanged again, not for a real fight, but it sure felt like one. Cameras zoomed in close, and the entire internet was already exploding with comments. "No way Chuck still got it. The Rock's about to get schooled." They circled slowly. The Rock tried another approach. Less brute force, more technique. He stepped in, quick jab, fake left, then a sweep attempt. But Chuck read every move like a chess master, seeing 10 steps ahead. With just a small sidestep and a twist of his wrist, he redirected the Rock's entire motion. The Rock stumbled forward again, but this time Chuck didn't let him fall. He caught his arm and steadied him, almost like a teacher catching his student mid-lesson. "Don't fight the energy," Chuck said calmly. "Flow with it." That one line hit harder than any punch. The Rock blinked, half confused, half impressed. But before he could respond, Chuck gently released him and stepped back, waiting for him to try again. The crowd began chanting Chuck's name again. The energy was changing. What started as a show of ego was turning into something deeper, respect. The Rock moved again, slower this time, more thoughtful. He tried a clean grapple, and Chuck didn't resist. Instead, he turned with the move, guiding it, redirecting it, until suddenly the Rock found himself on one knee, his balance gone, staring up at the man everyone had underestimated. The audience gasped, then burst into cheers. Even the commentators couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. Chuck Norris just neutralized the Rock without even using force. The Rock got back to his feet, smiling, and genuinely now. All right, old man. I'm officially learning something here." Chuck chuckled softly. Then the lesson's working. The arena dimmed for a second as the camera screens replayed Chuck's moves in slow motion. The precision, the fluidity, the effortless control. The crowd roared louder with every replay. But something unexpected happened. The Rock, whenever the showman, decided to turn it up a notch. He raised his hands, gesturing to the crowd. "Let's make this interesting," he shouted. "How about one last move, and if the cowboy can take me down again, I'll admit he's the real deal." The audience went absolutely wild. Cheers shook the roof. Chuck smiled faintly, shaking his head. "It's not about taking someone down, Rock, it's about lifting people up." But The Rock insisted, "Come on, just one move. Let's give them the ending they came for." Chuck took a deep breath. Then he nodded. "All right, but you asked for it." The Rock grinned and lowered into his stance. The arena went silent. You could almost hear the hum of the lights overhead. Two men, one fueled by power, the other by control, stood ready. The Rock lunged. His movement was clean, fast, powerful. But Chuck's eyes didn't even blink. In one perfect motion, he sidestepped, grabbed The Rock's wrist, shifted his balance, and used his momentum to guide him straight to the mat. It wasn't violent. It wasn't flashy. It was pure mastery. The Rock landed flat, stunned, and Chuck had barely moved an inch. For a full 3 seconds, there was silence. Then the entire arena exploded. "Chuck! Chuck! Chuck!" People were standing on their seats, chanting his name. The camera zoomed in on The Rock, flat on his back, smiling in disbelief. He looked up at Chuck, laughing breathlessly. Okay, you got me. You're not just a movie cowboy." Chuck reached down and helped him up. "I never was," he said with a calm grin. The Rock raised Chuck's hand high into the air. "Ladies and gentlemen, the real legend, Chuck Norris." The crowd roared even louder. Hashtags began trending online instantly. Respect Chuck, legend vs icon, The Rock and Chuck. The video highlights were everywhere. Chuck dodging The Rock's moves, his effortless reversals, and the iconic moment when The Rock stumbled to the mat, wide-eyed. With Chuck standing calm beside him, social media erupted with debates and admiration. Chuck Norris still owns the ring. The Rock is the people's champ, but Chuck is the real master. Respect is earned, not shouted. The Rock couldn't scroll past without smiling. He knew that tonight's lesson would stay with him forever. Later that day, The Rock took to Instagram. He posted a photo of himself with Chuck Norris, both men standing side by side, smiling. The caption read, "Tonight I learned a lesson I'll never forget. Strength can impress, but discipline commands respect." Respect Chuck, nor legend fans flooded the comments. Millions of hearts, thousands of emojis, and tens of thousands of comments praising both men. But The Rock wanted to make one thing clear. This wasn't about ego. It was about respect. "We all need someone to teach us humility," he wrote. "Whether it's in the ring or in life, there's always someone who can show you a better way." Even Chuck Norris shared the post with his own simple caption. "Real strength is silent. Real respect is earned." For The Rock, this was more than a sparring match when it was a moment of personal growth. He had walked into the arena thinking he could dominate, impress, and entertain. He left with something far greater: perspective. It wasn't just the audience that had learned a lesson. The Rock's humility had gone viral, inspiring millions around the world to recognize the difference between power and control, ego and respect. Fans were sharing their own reflections. "I need to be more like Chuck, calm and confident." Even champions can be humbled. That's inspiring. The Rock handled it perfectly. Admiration over arrogance. If you've ever been humbled by someone wiser than you, type respect in the comments and tell me where you're watching from and which country or city. Let's see how far this lesson spreads. The Rock finally turned to Chuck backstage and said quietly, "I underestimated you, man. Not just your skills, your patience, your control." "That was incredible." Chuck smiled, patting The Rock on the shoulder. "You learned fast. Remember, Rock, the lesson isn't about winning or losing. It's about respect, discipline, and how you carry yourself." The Rock nodded. He had learned something far more valuable than any championship or title: humility. The next day, the world woke up to the viral video. And the lesson spread even further. Millions were inspired, and even more began to understand what it truly means to earn respect. The morning after the charity event, social media was on fire. Clips of The Rock being taught a lesson by Chuck Norris had gone viral almost instantly. Every major platform, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, was flooded with highlights of the evening. Fans everywhere were reacting, sharing, and debating the showdown. On YouTube, within hours, millions had watched the iconic moment. Chuck Norris sidestepping The Rock, effortlessly redirecting his strength, and sending him stumbling to the mat, all without even raising his voice. The comments were full of awe. This is the definition of skill over strength. Even The Rock has respect for Chuck Norris now. Discipline beats ego every time. News outlets ran headlines that read, "The Rock humbled by Chuck Norris in charity ring showdown. Movie cowboy or martial arts legend. The world finds out tonight." The Rock learns respect from the man who never needed to prove himself. Even memes exploded across the internet, half humorous, half reverent. People couldn't stop recreating Chuck's calm sidestep, the way he controlled The Rock's momentum, and the moment The Rock's jaw dropped in awe. By noon, The Rock posted an Instagram video addressing the event. His tone was playful, but the respect was unmistakable. "So last night, I learned a lesson from the one and only Chuck Norris. Strength alone can impress the crowd, but discipline, control, and respect, that's what makes a legend. Chuck, you're the real deal, and the world needs to see this." The comments flooded in by the millions. Fans tagged friends from every country, from Brazil to Japan, Canada to South Africa, India to the UK. "Where are you watching this from?" one comment asked. And immediately, viewers began responding with their city or country. The internet was connecting people globally through a single viral lesson. This wasn't just about a celebrity sparring match anymore. It was about humility, mastery, and earning respect. Chuck Norris, ever calm and composed, didn't rush to comment. But later that evening, he shared a simple photo of himself with The Rock, both men smiling side by side, the arena in the background. Real strength is silent, real respect is earned. Fans couldn't get enough. The post went viral in minutes. Quotes from Chuck were shared across Instagram stories, Twitter threads, and TikTok videos, inspiring millions to think about respect and humility in their own lives. Even sports commentators weighed in, saying things like, "This wasn't just a show. This was a lesson the entire world needed." The Rock showed us humility. Chuck Norris reminded us why he's a true legend. The viral moment transcended sports and entertainment. Offices discussed it. Schools used it as an example of humility. And gyms debated technique versus power. The Rock's audience, already massive, now saw a new side of him. Admirable, reflective, and humble. Fans created compilations. Chuck's calm moves, The Rock's initial smirk turning to awe, the crowd erupting. Millions were inspired, sharing it with family and friends. Even children started tagging their parents. "Look at how Chuck handled it. That's how I want to act." The lesson was clear. Strength can open doors, but humility keeps them open. Respect earns what ego never can. Later that week, The Rock went on a talk show. The host asked, "Rock, did you expect last night to go the way it did?" He laughed, shaking his head. "Absolutely not. I thought it'd be all in good fun. But Chuck taught me something I'll never forget. He didn't just win the round, he won respect. And honestly, the world needed to see that lesson too." The audience cheered. Millions at home shared the clip instantly. It's not about looking strong. It's about knowing your strength and respecting others. The Rock's words reinforced what Chuck had demonstrated in the ring. True mastery isn't loud. It's disciplined, humble, and measured. If you think Chuck Norris still deserves legendary respect, type legend in the comments. And tell me your city or country. Let's see how far this viral lesson has traveled. By the end of the week, the video had reached tens of millions worldwide. News outlets continued to report on it, using it as an example of humility in action. The Rock publicly acknowledged Chuck. The crowd continued sharing highlights, and fans everywhere started thinking about strength, control, and respect in their own lives. For the first time, a playful challenge between two icons became more than entertainment. It became a global lesson. The Rock had entered the ring thinking it was all about showmanship. He left with humility, respect, and a viral lesson that would echo for years. The world had witnessed a rare moment. Strength meeting discipline, ego meeting humility, and a legend proving why some titles are earned, not claimed. By the morning after the charity event, the world had officially seen what many already suspected. Chuck Norris was no ordinary fighter. He was a living legend. The clips of him calmly and effortlessly teaching The Rock a lesson had gone viral, racking up millions of views across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter within hours. Every news outlet ran a story. The headlines didn't focus on The Rock's strength or his celebrity status, or even the charity event itself. They focused on humility, respect, and mastery. The Rock humbled by martial arts legend Chuck Norris. Movie cowboy, more like real-life legend. Strength versus discipline. What we learned from The Rock versus Chuck fans across the globe were inspired. Videos were remixed, slowed down, and annotated to highlight Chuck's flawless technique. Parents showed it to children, teachers used it to discuss humility, and gyms used it as a live example of discipline in action. It had become more than a viral video. It had become a lesson for the world. Later that week, The Rock sat down for an interview with a top talk show host. The energy in the room was electric. Millions were tuning in online to hear his reaction. I walked into that ring thinking it was all about fun and showmanship, The Rock admitted. I thought I could entertain, maybe impress a few fans, but I walked out having learned a lesson I'll never forget. He leaned forward, eyes wide with admiration. Chuck didn't just defeat me with skill. He taught me discipline, patience, and respect. And that's something no amount of training or fame can give you. The host nodded and The Rock continued. It was humbling. And honestly, the world needed to see that. Strength can make headlines, but humility makes history. Chuck Norris, true to form, didn't make a big deal about his viral fame. His post-event interviews were short, precise, and humble. Real strength is silent, he said. Real respect is earned. His words resonated with millions. Social media blew up with Respect Chuck, their legend, and movie cowboy no more. People shared the story from their cities, countries, and continents, from New York to Tokyo, London to Cape Town, Sydney to Mumbai. The simplicity of Chuck's message, control over ego, respect over pride, then was spreading faster than any meme or viral stunt ever could. Fans couldn't get enough. Memes, reaction videos, and commentary flooded the internet. Some fans shared their favorite part, The Rock's jaw dropping the first time Chuck reversed his move. Others highlighted the calmness and precision with which Chuck executed his techniques. This isn't just a fight. It's a lesson in life, one comment read. Even champions can be humbled. That's what makes legends, said another. Even The Rock's fan base was divided, and not by loyalty but by respect. Everyone agreed. Chuck Norris had earned global admiration. The Rock later shared another post on social media. Some nights are about winning. Last night was about learning. Thank you, Chuck Norris, for teaching me and the world that true mastery is measured by humility and respect. I respect Chuck, dark legend. The post instantly went viral again. Fans around the world were inspired to reflect on their own lives, how they approached challenges, handled pride, and respected others. If you believe respect should always be earned, not demanded, type legend in the comments. And tell me which city or country you're watching this from. Let's see how far Chuck's lesson has traveled. For The Rock, the night was unforgettable. Not for the cheers, not for the viral videos, not for the headlines, but for the lesson he carried forward. Even in interviews, on set, or during his workouts, The Rock often recalls that night. Chuck Norris didn't need to prove himself. He didn't need to win the crowd's approval. He simply stood, taught, and commanded respect, and the world followed. The charity event ended as planned, but the real story had already traveled across continents, inspiring millions. Strength may have impressed, but discipline, humility, and respect left a legacy, and in that moment everyone watching understood the truth. Some legends don't fight for glory, they fight to teach it.